The year is 1985. The economy is flourishing, the music is incredible, and the fashion is, well, iconic. But in November of that year, a little device was sold in toy stores across the country. Now, this device was fairly niche and obscure. You may be unfamiliar, but it was called the Nintendo Entertainment System. Nintendo geniusly marketed the NES as a toy rather than a gaming console due to the sour taste that the last leg of the Atari 2600's life left on people. With the NES came a little game called Super Mario Bros., and with it, a new aspect of video games that are incredibly important in today's gaming landscape. Now, games before the NES era contained music, but it was much more basic, short fanfares to accompany the game starting, the player winning, or the player losing miserably. But Koji Kondo, the composer for the original Mario games, wrote the music for the game to play behind every action that Mario took. Since then, complex music that plays alongside the action on screen is far more commonplace than it used to be, providing thousands of music that can instantly take them back to a time when they were younger and discovering the apparent magic of video games. And heck, sometimes a person may be compelled to listen to the music of a game removed from that context. There have been several times throughout the past where I've completed hours of homework listening to the Super Mario Galaxy soundtrack. But I ever stopped to think, why might this be? What makes some video game soundtracks so compelling to listen to? And to that I say, stop!
Right.
Stop! No. Okay, first off, I need to say that I'm currently a junior in high school and have never taken any courses on music theory, nor am particularly well versed. However, I know some due to my experience with band for the past few years, as well as my experience with writing music, and some time watching these YouTubers. One of the things that I find particularly compelling about a video game soundtrack is their implementation of leitmotif. Now, leitmotif was a strategy used by Richard Wagner in the mid-19th century to write his operas. The idea is that any character, object, or dramatic theme may be represented with some musical phrase. Leitmotif is particularly good for getting a certain melody stuck in the listener's head. An obvious example of this would be the overworld theme in Super Mario Bros. Now, this piece itself has tons of deeper theoretical reasons why it's so catchy despite being heard for almost 35 years now, but...
Look, here's the thing.
Fine. Listen,
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of
unintelligent,
so I won't be getting into it. If you're interested, I would highly recommend you watch either of these videos for some of that deeper theory. Now, the reason why this piece would be considered a leitmotif is pretty simple. If you ask someone, hey, what song is this? Chances are, they tell you that it's the Mario theme. Now, certain icons do have leitmotifs of their own, but leitmotifs of particular sections or characters of a game truly strengthen the memorability and quality of a soundtrack. Undertale is probably one of the best examples of how to implement leitmotif into a soundtrack. Almost every track in the game shares some melodic material with another. The melody from Heartache, the song that plays in the battle with Toriel, is meant to represent Toriel's own struggle to want to fight you, relentless yet somber. This theme returns in the fight with Asgore in a track titled Asgore. Wow, Toby Fox is really clever. Here are some other examples where Toby Fox reused melodic material from earlier in the game. For the more observant players, certain Easter eggs are hidden within a game's soundtrack. Now, I am not particularly well versed in the Legend of Zelda series, having only played the first two games, Wind Waker and Breath of the Wild. However, while wandering through Death Mountain in Breath of the Wild, I noticed something in the music that literally made me say "no way" out loud, despite being alone in my basement. Listen for yourself. Did you catch that? In case you didn't, allow me to draw your attention to the fight with Ganon from the first game. Okay, so let's listen to the Breath of the Wild Death Mountain theme again. They're the same theme. On top of some games hiding these to point at older installments, some games have used music to foreshadow future events in the game. In Portal 2, there are 2 test chambers in which the player comes in contact with the companion cube. Upon getting closer to said cube, faint music can be heard. However, if you've beaten the game, you would know that this is the melody from Cara Mia Adio, the kinda weird but also kinda epic song that the turrets sing as Chell ascends towards the surface. These subtle nods to the other pieces within the game make me nerd out harder than almost anything, because they feel absolutely incredible to discover. When the game isn't shouting, "Hey, listen, this is that song. Remember that song? It's like that old thing. You remember? It's fun and silly." It feels less like the game is trying to capitalize on your nostalgia or memory, but rather, it's almost like finding the solution to a puzzle. But let's get real. Writing good music with leitmotifs and/or subtle references to a game's music isn't all that makes a good video game OST. How this soundtrack is integrated also makes a huge difference. To be honest, I am probably one of the least qualified people to tell you about the ins and outs of game design, but I can sure as heck tell you about some things that I think are kinda cool. One of these things that always tends to blow my mind is adaptive music. Now this video does a great job at showing some examples of adaptive music and how it applies to gaming. In short, adaptive music is music that changes to fit whatever may be happening in a particular scenario. The most common of these in the gaming space is vertical dynamic music. All this means is that the orchestration may change or more instruments may be added depending on the player's choice without abandoning the melodic or harmonic material. Okay, in shorter, music change when you do things. This may be as simple as Mario diving underwater in Super Mario Galaxy. Whee! Drop notes in Guitar Hero Rock Band, or flying through the air via an aerial faith plate in Portal 2. This gives the player a form of instant feedback, letting them know to improve or adapt to a new gameplay style. This occurs on a level that most are not aware of, but once the player notices, it leads to a much greater appreciation for the attention the designers and music composers put into the game. Other examples include sound effects in Mario Odyssey and Mario Galaxy changing to match the harmony in the background. The orchestration changing for each season in Click Clock Wood and Banjo-Kazooie. And the instrumentation building in Mario Kart 8 as the player gets closer to racing. When these techniques are implemented properly, they enhance the game experience and assist in strengthening the tone of a portion or the entirety of a game. However, another important aspect to video game OSTs is that the music in them is, good. None of these techniques matter if the music itself does not fit the tone of the game or is just bad. Ew. That's why having talented composers that write music that perfectly captures the feeling of the player or the essence of the game is so important. There are so many absolutely amazing pieces of music in video games, and each one of them is worthy of attention on their own, but I'll briefly touch on some of my favorites. Keep in mind, these are my own feelings based on my own experience growing up playing these games, so sorry if I don't mention your favorite. First off is probably Cass's theme from The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. As previously stated, I'm a bit of a novice when it comes to Zelda. In fact, Breath of the Wild is the only Zelda game I've actually beaten, but something about this piece of music just gets to me. I think part of this is due to the sparsity of music in the game. After spending hours exploring by myself, only accompanied by the sound of nature, there's something so cozy about flying to a tower, or swimming to a rock formation in the ocean, and noticing Cass's accordion music gradually becoming louder. Not to mention, the waltz has a very bittersweet taste to it, fitting for the post-apocalyptic setting of the game. Next would probably be the piece Undertale from, you guessed it, the game Undertale. After leaving the second-to-last area, the player learns that they will have to kill King Asgore in order to escape from the underground, and Asgore would need to kill you in order to shatter the barrier, keeping all of the monsters there. As you walk towards the castle in this fated battle, the monsters the player had faced gather to tell the tragic story of how the monsters became trapped underground, and now they're all hopeful that they will soon be able to reach the surface. Behind the scene is the only piece of music containing a live instrument, a single acoustic guitar. This guitar plays the melody of his theme as an ostinato figure throughout the whole piece. This is combined with the melody from Once Upon a Time, the music that plays during the prologue of the game. The tone is slightly somber, but mostly hopeful, symbolizing the feelings of the monsters ready to escape instead of the player's own feelings of dread as they approach the battle. This piece captures the image of the game itself, one of empathy. And finally, my personal favorite piece of video game music would have to be Gusty Garden Galaxy from Super Mario Galaxy. What could be said about this piece that hasn't already been said? It's pure orchestral bliss. The melody is soaring and beautiful, the tempo and rhythm are upbeat and energetic, and the chord choices and voicing in some places are just pure magic. For example, the E-flat diminished reharmonization of the A theme the second time through blows my mind every single time. Of course, the highlight of the piece comes near the end, when the orchestra explodes into an emotional climax that I had not experienced before. This piece spearheaded my interest in music and composition and played a major role in my development as a musician and a person. In my opinion, not only does Gusty Garden Galaxy represent the joy of Mario games, but the joy of gaming as a whole. If you've watched this far, I just want to say, why? This video is terrible. No, but seriously, thank you for watching me ramble and nerd over video game music for
14 minutes and 38 seconds.
Video game music has provided so many with memorable experiences and joy that are nearly unrivaled by other genres of music. Feel free to tell me your favorite soundtrack or piece in a video game in the comments. Thank you guys for watching the first installment of Mediocre Music Theory. I may or may not see you guys later.